Out of the gates and ready to go for Hot Mike here with Honey Withrow at OutKick. NBA and the predictability. Does that open the door for the NHL? We'll discuss that. Plus, Netflix, they want a big swing of an open door to get an NFL contract moving forward. And Rick Petino, where he's pissed off for greatness. So are we. Hope you are as well. Join us in the comments. Like and subscribe to the OutKick YouTube channel. So, Withrow, every time I find myself flipping through and I end up on an NBA product, I regret it.
Mm-hmm. Any NBA product.
Pretty much.
Hutton stumbles upon a documentary and he's like, I can't stand this. Here's a deodorant commercial with an NBA player in it, another NBA product I'm against.
The product itself is just everyone bashing the league. I haven't watched Mac McClung dunk the basketball. Mm-hmm. I just know he won, and it sucked, right? That's really all I know.
I know two things about Mac McClung. He can dunk, and he's white. That's all I know about him.
And he can't ball.
I don't know anything else about his actual skill set. Those are the two things I know.
He's not worthy of sitting on the bench.
Right.
In the NBA, but
can't even be a 12th guy on a roster.
Cannot. I regret watching it whenever I do from time to time. You told me you did tune in to watch the hockey.
Yep. The Four Nations face-off.
Four Nations. Thank you. Did you regret it?
Last night a little bit. I will say. I'm all amped up on national pride and patriotism because of this thing. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm checking the score yesterday between Canada and Finland to see who's going to face off against the United States in the Four Nations face-off in the championship, and Canada gets it done. So you know it's going to be them, and because of that, there was really nothing to play for last night between the United States and Sweden. But I still did think to myself, the USA does not lose to Sweden, no matter what. I remember the words of the great Herb Brooks, who said after the Miracle on Ice, when the U.S. played Sweden for the gold medal, they were down going into the third period. And he said, if you don't win this game, you'll take it to your bleeping graves.
Yeah.
Your bleeping graves. And they came back and they ended a tie late in the game and won the gold medal, and the rest is history. So I was a little bit amped up on that national pride feeling about going up against these Scandinavian assholes.
Yeah.
And then the game starts, and 35 seconds into it, it's 1-0 Team USA. And I'm on my recliner, I'm chanting USA, 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 and they don't score again, and they lose 2-1, and they're resting guys. And I'm watching
the NBA.
I'm watching the intermission report, which we're going to get to here momentarily, which was highly entertaining. But even the intermission report, like Henrik Lundqvist, the famous Swede, he was saying, like, if you're the Americans, you can't take a break. This is not a sport where you take a break or take a shift off. You have to stay ready. You got to play full out, because when you go half-assed, that's when you get hurt. And that's when guys start dropping like flies. So you still got to play this thing full out. I don't know that the Americans played it full out last night, but I do know that they lost to Sweden.
Again, I didn't see it. I don't regret not being able to see it based on the patriotism that it was about, and the reaction that we had. I
felt bad for all the little kids in American sweaters. Yeah, they kept panning the crowd with they pulled the goalie, and the USA chant started to
that they sold in the arena that day.
TD Bank North Arena in Boston, and all these little kids were there cheering for America, and then they cut to the end of it, and it's just like 4 kids in Swedish sweaters cheering at the end to the Swedish national anthem, which we did not boo, by the way.
Well, okay. So in order for this to really take off, it's got to be more than just USA Canada wanting to fight one time, because we're bitching about the NBA product. We're tuning in to watch hockey fights. That's really what this is. It's not if the NBA were going to fight and drop the gloves, which they won't. They'll take a knee. We'll tune in to watch that. It'll be better than any All-Star product that they're putting out. But the difference is it's a one-off deal where you're not going to have the same passion when the Kings take on the Panthers next Thursday night. That's what it's missing. That it's great. They embrace it, but they don't. And the NHL, I'm saying, because we don't see nearly as many fights on it. But that's what the passion is all about, and that's what the NBA is missing. Now, predictability. Like yesterday I said, a year from now we will be complaining about the All-Star weekend for the NBA. And Anson Carter, who knows a thing or two about fighting, he is on TNT, and he's discussing the predictability of the NBA and what it means for the NHL moving forward.
USA hockey's on the map right now. As a Canadian, it's a little scary. I'm a little nervous for Thursday, but it's been a treat to watch. So I know that all the American fans will love it.
If you're nervous, it's good for hockey, though.
Yes,
like no one wants to go into a game Thursday where you know the outcome. This isn't the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a game that we expect to be closely fought. It could go either way. A save here, a big play there. So I think that's why the anticipation is so high for the championship game.
I love what he's saying. Doesn't sound like it delivered on that level. And, well, it was a Four Nations face-off that lasted with good ratings, one big game.
Well, they got one more chance. Thursday night, I think, will be big when it's the championship game.
Whenever they drop the gloves again.
Whenever they play Canada again, because they hate each other.
And
again, I think you credit Donald Trump a lot for this.
Well,
that's a part of the division between Canada and the United States is this dude, love him or hate him, he's so divisive as the president that he draws eyeballs, he draws ratings. Sure. Whatever he does, it brings more viewers to it, and that includes international hockey now. You can add to that realm.
Well, but it's I mean, the NBA is very divisive, and their ratings are going down. You know, like you said, what I'm saying?
But it's not
the same fervor, the following. I understand what you're saying, but like, unless they're going to just be pissed off every time and everyone's just going to boo every game, I don't think it's really going to take off as much as people are jumping on the bandwagon about.
No, I don't buy for a second that the NHL is going to take over the NBA in the United States when it comes to viewership. Basketball is just a bigger sport in the U.S. This is no knock at hockey. Yeah. Hockey at its best is damn good.
Yeah.
But it's
really good.
I mean, look, I love beating Canada. It's Canada's sport.
We need Russia in this.
It's Canada's sport. You know, the United States
China.
is American football, baseball, basketball. That's always going to be ahead of hockey. So even with all the problems in the NBA, I don't see that changing over the next 10, 15 years. But it's an amazing W for Gary Bettman that's going on right now, coinciding with the demise of the NBA because of some bad decisions around the NBA All-Star Weekend, which highlights a lot of the problems with that league right now. So it's a good time to be associated with hockey. I think Anson Carter's smart to take their chance, to take their shots. You know, those guys, that studio crew on TNT, by the way, which still has the rights to the NBA, taking shots at the NBA. Now,
the NBA crew is also taking shots at the NBA.
It's not the best way to attack the NBA, to act like it's WWE, that it's all pre-scripted.
Not pre-scripted.
It's not, but go back and listen to his thing. He said, we don't know the outcome on Thursday night like we will if we tune into the NBA. And I'm thinking, are you claiming that the games that you already know who's going to win because it's pre-planned who's going to win?
No, what's predictable, though, is how the game's going to go. The final 3-minute rule for me.
Yeah, and that's not, well, and I don't know, that's not the area I would think to attack the NBA. Where you attack the NBA is these dudes are going to go out there and try to kill each other to win this hockey game when they go head-to-head again.
This league
and
cares.
That's the complete opposite of what you're going to see in the NBA.
Right, but I think that jump to that next level that he made, to your point, is what's kind of ridiculous about all of this.
Yeah.
You know, unless Russia's lining up to drop the gloves the next time that we face off, that when they move from 4 to 8 in a few months or a couple of years, whenever they're going to come back and do this. I mean, it's a great win for them, but how do they continue this? They need to produce more of the reason why we tuned into the Four Nations instead of why we don't tune into the NBA. I just the NBA sucks. I don't care about why it. I don't want to give them the pedestal that they so desire when they point to this $70-something billion contract on TV, which they got. I mean, they have that, which is nuts. If the NHL's better, we'll tell you. But, I mean, it is predictable, and it's predictable that they're still going to lead the headlines because it's predictable. You see what I'm saying? If the hockey's good, no one's going to care because we don't talk hockey. We talk fights. We talk,
there's
controversy.
There's this seesaw, right? This is the natural season and progression of things, Hutton. This back and forth of the NBA sucks, and here's hockey having a moment.
Right.
And now hockey people blowing up, this is why this
Look at
sport
us.
has always been the best and will forever be the best, and it's going to overtake the NBA. And then I'm like, okay, simmer down. Let's chill out for a second. You're not going to replace basketball in the United States as something that people care more about or watch more. You're never going to have the celebrities that are in the NBA. There's a reason, by the way, that, Anson Carter's talking about the NBA, but Charles Barkley or Shaq isn't talking about the Four Nations face-off, right? They're talking about how bad the NBA is because the NBA is still the focal point for this. So I feel like the moment I start to, this hockey's good, then the hockey people get a little too big for their britches, and I start to back down a little bit and say, just chill out a little bit, like calm down. You're not taking over anytime soon. That's not going to happen. Here's the other thing to keep in mind with this. Geopolitics matters.
Yeah.
Canada and the U.S. at odds right now, and Trump threatening to make them the 51st state, and Justin Trudeau joking on a live mic that they are going to become the 51st state, and tariff threats, and booing the national anthem. This is the shit that made Rocky IV so awesome.
Wait, Canada's doing it.
If Rocky was fighting some dude from Jamaica, no one would care. But he fought a Russian in Rocky IV at the height of the Cold War. But if you mix that in, Hutton, now give me a Chinese team the next time. Give me a Russian team. Give me a Canadian team and an American team, and the ratings will skyrocket at that point.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. We need Russia involved in this. And there needs to be a Cold War going on.
Exactly.
But
and we've got a little Cold War with Canada right now, which helps the ratings.
And Canada's the one that booed and pissed off the Americans.
Yeah.
But they're viewing us as the villain, and then we're dropping gloves because of it. One time.
If you make
let's
the
do
mistake,
it again. Let's show up and do it again. Let's beat their ass. And then I guess talk about it for 2 years until you know what I mean. Like, are they going to do it? Is every American? Is there going to be an honorary American and Canadian after they play the anthems in the NHL? They're just going to drop gloves now just to see what happens whenever we have Minnesota take on Nashville, because otherwise the NBA is going to continue to be a focus this time of year unless the Pro Bowl's on, which is still drawing.
And
viewers.
Again, it's the Anson Carter bringing the NBA's name into his mouth during this big hockey moment and taking a shot at them, which I'm fine with. Like, there is a rivalry there because the seasons are the exact same amount of time during the same time of year, all of that. So take your shots when you can. But again, you're taking that shot because the NBA is more popular. And I despise the NBA right now. I also don't really follow the NHL as much right now either. But if you give me this, and I'm going to watch on Thursday night too, I'm all for it. But there's a lot of things at play that don't have anything to do with hockey.
Well, the thing about the hockey headline is it was a social media moment too. The NBA has very small highlight reel clips. When was the last time we watched a power play on just scrolling social media? We watched the fights though, and that was just going crazy. You can watch a dunk even though they missed 15 in a row. Yeah. You'll see the one on social. That they benefit from that. This is a great win for hockey, but how do they continue it? They gradually. Let's not just jump to conclusions for the sake of making a headline and trying to turn hockey into an algorithm, because it's not. The NBA is, which is why we talk about it even if we're not watching it.
Yeah, which is why the discussion to start our show today was a hockey analyst talking about the NBA.
Well, but on the I'm coming from it from the angle of chill, because there's no reason to just jump to the idea that all of a sudden the NBA is predictable and every game matters, especially when the game that's on didn't live up to the hype.
It was a rough night.
But
this tournament is really important thing.
But they had eyeballs, which is good.
And I understand that everything was slotted. At that point, I get the whole logistics
and it didn't,
of it
the
too.
Outcome,
but if you're going to sell the public on, boy, there's not a lot of games in this thing, and this round robin, and every single game matters a lot for national pride, then don't put on my television the United States losing to Sweden, a country that is not near the size and should not be beating the United States.
They've got to talk trash
in anything except cross-country skiing.
We've got to manufacture.
That's the one sport they need to beat the United States in. Everything else, we should have them in.
Cross country. What show are you watching that's had all the cross country?
The Ara Murders. It was on my What's With Throw watching on Friday.
Okay.
Swedish crime show. Takes place in the Swedish ski resort town of Ara.
A lot of
spelled
blondes,
A-R-E. There is a blonde detective in it. And it starts with just a high school girl that leaves a party that goes missing, and then the mystery starts from there.
Okay.
It's kind of a whodunit detective show. But one thing they do in this town of Ara that I noticed, and why everyone in Scandinavia is so fit, is here it is right there. Look at this. Our crew is on top of it. There's the logo. You find it on Netflix.
The Ara.
They cross country ski everywhere. Like, they'll get directions like, oh, it's through the fjord, past the fjord, and through the forest over there. I don't speak Swedish, but I watch it with the English dubbed in. I use the subtitles. And they just ski. They break out their skis, and they cross-country ski to the next point they're going to. And I'm thinking, this is why everyone's so fit.
I would think you're fluent because I'm reading this. The R murders.
The R murders, yeah. Whatever that little symbol is on top of the A makes it Ara.
See? Fluent. Withrow.
I know how to say
Swedes.
I know how to say Sweden the way they would say it.
Yeah.
A lot of Gustafsons on the show. I think it's Annika is the main detective lady.
See, there's a UFC fighter, a former one, not Gustaf, it's Gustafsson or something.
Yeah.
Am I speaking fluent?
I feel like the main dude that's the detective, his name is like Scott. It's like totally
Scott
off.
Jones.
It's like totally off. Everything else is very Swedish, and then the guy who kind of looks like Hutton, the main detective, like dark hair, dark beard, and his name's just like Paul.
Just randomly over there.
Just random. He's
After a
Swedish,
blonde,
but
I'm
he's
sure.
got a very normal name.
Yeah, just randomly after one of the Aura.
Terrific show. Gotten worse as I've gone along. I will say I threw it out there as a recommendation. Not as good as the first 3 episodes when you get to 4 and 5, the final 2, but still
They
worth your
mailed
watch.
it in, or the storyline's crap?
The storyline completely changes.
Okay.
It's very weird. Like 3 episodes sums up one case,
Yeah.
and then 4 and 5 is a new one, and the 4 and 5 is not nearly as good.
Speaking of streaming and watching some things, I know you were tuned in live to the SNL at 50 celebration. I had totally forgot about this. And I think one of the main reasons was it was on Sunday, not Saturday, because I've got the DVR going.
Yeah.
But luckily I checked this, and I started catching up on it. I understand that the ratings, and there's a reason to put things on Sunday nights. That's why the NBA Finals are playing on Sunday nights, right? They'll wait 5 days to put that game on Sunday. Had this been on Saturday, I would have remembered to watch it live. And there's an aspect to that show that I want to watch live instead of fast forwarding through everything, knowing the clips that hey, let's see if Will Ferrell's coming up next. Or let's fast forward through the music. Like, I think the live aspect is what I didn't capture because I'm fast forwarding through. And I can sit there and watch it, but I kind of know the results of what's good and what's not. When's Bargatze coming up or whatever. Yeah. You are very good at coming in on. We used to watch this religiously. You would come in on Sunday or Monday and tell me, hey, you've got to watch this clip, and this clip. SNL is not as great, but hey, there's 3 things you got to watch. What would you say was over 50% or less than 50% on the hit rate?
I think it was way over 50%. I only count like 1 or 2 things that just didn't work for me on it. I thought it was really well done. Now, here's to tell you why they do it on Sunday night. They had 15 million viewers.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But prime time, which is a big television night.
No doubt.
Now, here's the thing, though. You think Saturday night, late at Saturday night, no one's watching. Now, no one's watching just traditional TV as much anymore, regardless.
Right.
Or any of the networks. SNL is still the highest rated non-NFL event every week on NBC. It's the highest rated show live on Saturday night.
Yeah, and they promote,
at 11:30 Eastern time.
The crap out of it.
That's still the highest rated show, so it still does well for NBC. Now it doesn't do what it did in the '90s when they had Adam Sandler and Mike Myers, and then Will Ferrell on it. It's dropped off from there, but everything on network television has dropped off from there. Hutton, here was my big takeaway from it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the show did a really good job of promoting the current cast. I feel like it was part promo for, hey, all these old people that were on the show years ago that have gone on to become huge, giant stars. Now we're going to show you the new cast that's pretty good, too. And we're going to put some of the old cast members in new concepts like Domingo, the newer sketch from this past season that has hit and become a recurring sketch for SNL. I thought they did a good job of that and making it relatable with older stars as part of these sketches. and really getting the new cast involved. Now, also, Hutton, we talked about this a bit yesterday, but I don't think that really serves the nostalgia crowd as much.
That's what I was tuned in
because
for.
you didn't have as many of the Now, they had them. They went back to the Lawrence Welk show early on and had Will Ferrell as Robert Goulet and Kristen Wiig as her crazy character. So they mixed some things in like that. But I really thought it was a show. The 40th, I felt like, honored the first 15 years of the show a lot. And the 50th, I think, honored the last 15 or 20 more than the 40th did. Yeah, from like 2005 on, 2010 on, I felt like this one was heavy with that era of Kristen Wiig, starting out with Sudeikis, Wiig, Armisen, and Ferrell as a host during that time. That's where this one sort of paid tribute while mixing a lot of former cast members in with the new cast today.
So, all great points. I think 3 hours was a bit long. And only because what if you save some of that and put that on the weekly bit, right? We're talking more about it. All that being said, I mean, they played the hits. I wish they would have done more than like some newer characters with Will Ferrell, for instance. I want to see get off the shed.
Yeah.
Something, a throwback that you haven't thought about in years.
Right.
That all of a sudden it's like, oh, I forgot all about this. This is taking me back to 1999.
But I even, just going back and thinking about the sketches they did, that's been a recurring sketch. The Kate McKinnon alien abduction character and bringing Meryl Streep in as her mom, I thought was funny. And that's one where that's just her cracking everyone else up on set when she's playing her character. Debbie Downer was another one they brought back, was good. The Weekend Update bit with Bill Murray. Going through his top 10 Weekend Update host all time, making the OJ joke in honor of Norm Macdonald, who passed away. He's like, I'm starting to think maybe he did it. Maybe we should probably consider the fact that he might have done it the way Norm said.
Deep Thoughts.
Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy, that, of all these treasures, it was really how well they paid us was the real treasure the whole time. Really, look, again, I'm an SNL nerd, so I go way back and watch all the old reruns and any special. I've read the book Live from Saturday Night. That's the oral history, James Andrew Miller, of the entire show from its conception. I eat all of it up, but I thought it was good. I mean, there are a couple things I would have changed. I thought the Tom Hanks Black Jeopardy thing, I couldn't tell if it was like an attempt to like bridge the gap and be like, hey, everything's okay. People are coming together type thing that just landed awkwardly, or what they were trying to do with that.
But it's the same character back,
It
right?
wasn't funny. Yeah, it's a recurring character, but the whole thing about I'm going to come shake your hand, then he wouldn't shake his hand, then he did. And I'm like, are you trying to like extend an olive branch to the conservative right, or are you just trying to just flat out make fun of I couldn't really tell what it was because there was nothing funny about it.
Right.
But the rest of it was funny. I mean, Eddie Murphy as Tracy Morgan.
Drunk Uncle.
Was hilarious. Drunk Uncle coming back. The girl you wish you hadn't met at a party. Cecily Strong, 7 months pregnant or whatever, was hilarious on it. Like, there were a lot of things that really hit. I thought the musical guests were pretty good. Opening with Sabrina Carpenter and Paul Simon. And the first joke was great. He said, this is a song I performed with George Harrison on a show in 1976, and Sabrina Carpenter says, I wasn't born then, and neither were my parents, is how they open it. I'm like, now that's a good way to bridge the age gap and have a joke to start things off as they do their duet.
Okay, so what, you said something on the way out yesterday as we're leaving that you don't necessarily think when Lorne Michaels...
Steve Martin was really good, too.
He was good.
With John Mulaney.
The character, Chad, as well.
Yes. With Pete Davidson as Chad.
Yes, thank you. Who once squatted in our studio.
Yes.
Pete Davidson.
He was very afraid of us, he said.
Yeah.
What was it he told us when he came in? He was promoting a comedy deal in Nashville at Zany's, and he said, I'm sorry, tall white guys with deep voices make me nervous.
That he didn't know what to do while taking a photo or some promotional photo, so he's like, let's all squat.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah. Interesting dude.
Did.
Pete Davidson, interesting guy.
Yeah, 2 Chads.
Yep.
So you were saying that Saturday Night Live doesn't necessarily continue, that this could go to a streaming service and it could be on a different night?
Well, I don't know. So
like rumor mill.
Not like it's not it wouldn't equal out to 1 and 1 of one moving to the other one. There's a lot of talk. So Ted Sarandos, who I believe was at the 50th, he was at the 40th also, the founder, the head of Netflix, huge comedy fan. And Ted Sarandos has the rights and an idea for a Friday Night Live on Netflix as part of their live offerings because they're getting into the live game at Netflix in a big way, that could offset an inevitable fall off of SNL when Lorne Michaels is no longer leading the show. So the big talk now is who's going to take over. It's going to be Tina Fey, Seth Meyers. They both have a lot of things going on. Seth Meyers have to leave his late night show to take over SNL. Steve Higgins, who's been on the show as a writer for years and years, is another thought that he may step into that Lorne Michaels role. But
what about Conan?
What is NBC's? What is their propensity to continue it once he's gone? Because it's very expensive. Like, the show does well compared to other NBC shows, but to produce that show, I read an article, it's like $4.5 million per episode. That's what it costs to shoot an SNL in Studio 8H, the way they do it. Tiny elevators in an old New York City high-rise on the 8th floor, all the props that are needed, all the cost that goes into it.
Build it too,
it's highly expensive to do it. If you're doing that show now, you're doing it on a soundstage in Queens somewhere. That's where it should be done, or in Studio City in L.A. That's where, possibly Friday Night Live on Netflix would be done, and it's way more cost-effective that way because you're paying the cast and everyone else also. I'm interested to see where all of this goes next. When Lorne Michaels is 80 years old, he looked every bit of 80 years old on stage.
Yes, he did.
When he came out. I mean, it is striking to see, Garrett Morris has to be seated when he's on stage. He's like 89, by the way. He's older than, and I think Chevy Chase is also older. He was one of the older cast members in the first season.
Yeah.
But I believe he's older than Lorne Michaels also. But,
he's 81.
That's what you're dealing with is what's next when Lorne Michaels is no longer a part of it.
And you're
is
right
it going to be the same? Is he really the connective tissue? I've listened to David Spade and Dana Carvey talk on their podcast about this, that it just doesn't even feel like the show if Lorne's not there. They can't imagine the universe with him not around when they go back on the show.
I agree with that, but they just need to get back to play the hits.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, create some.
And I think that they did a good job. That Domingo thing hits every time.
It does.
With the musical guests they bring on, and they're a part of it. Like, it's a funny recurring bit that they have.
And they've done. I think the thing about Lord is he'll cycle through those people.
Yeah.
If they're not hitting, peace. Like, there's a lot of. There was one season recently, right, with one and dones, pretty much.
Yeah.
On the cast.
Well, Marcelo Hernandez is the guy that's Domingo, 27 years old, and you can tell he is being groomed as the next big superstar comedy guy to come off of SNL, because he got a spot where he introduced one of the musical acts at the homecoming concert too, which was awesome. If you haven't seen that, go back on Peacock and watch the SNL homecoming concert from Friday night. Highlight was the surviving members of Nirvana did Smells Like Teen Spirit with Post Malone standing in for Kurt Cobain. Okay. And it was incredible. And Adam Sandler introduced them, and it blew the house down. So
that's awesome.
Really, really well done with that.
So Netflix, and again, if they get involved, it should crush just based on what they did for the Brady roast, right?
And Netflix also, by the way, is going to. I think the name of the show is Everybody's in L.A., and it was John Mulaney hosted like a late night variety show that they ran as a test for a week live every night. That's coming back, and it's going to be their late night show. So they're going to have a live every night John Mulaney hosting a comedy show on Netflix. Just another example of live programming, Hutton, which we've seen with NFL and WWE.
Yeah, and I think WWE is doing well from all accounts. I brought this up last week or 2 weeks ago at the Super Bowl. Netflix is going to want to do more than just own a day. They own Christmas Day now. You've got Thanksgiving's always going to be spread around with the way the NFL handles those games of the networks. They've created this space for Amazon Prime on Black Friday, and now Netflix. Netflix wants in a massive way into live sports, and they want to do more than just a couple of games. I threw out the idea, whenever they moved to 18 weeks or 18 games, they could own the 18th game, because if you just want to add that in, contractually, the broadcast rights are signed through what they are. They've already created Christmas Day for Netflix. That pissed off everybody, and then everyone got over it. CBS produced the broadcast for Netflix. They could do that if you want to add in the international flair to what Roger Goodell is building and will roll out sooner rather than later. They've already announced Australia for 2026. That's after they go to Spain this upcoming season. They're talking like Puck is reporting like they're discussing like their own Sunday afternoon big package weekly. That could also be the international week. You just do that every week at 8:30, 9:30 in the morning, and that's the Netflix game. You know, they're diving in head first.
Let's get specific here because they want to take over for Fox or CBS. That contract is up in 2033. But the NFL can opt out 4 years early.
And the reason for that is the CBA negotiations will happen that same year.
2029, the NFL is expected to opt out of that. So then that'll re-up negotiations with everyone. And what Netflix wants is to get either the AFC package on CBS or the NFC package on Fox, which would then take all those games to Netflix where you go and pick, or you just have your local game, or you get to pay for it and pick your game of what you want. And then that would put the losing bidder into that rotation of that early morning game for international series games.
But it doesn't
possibly. Or it could be Netflix landing on the international game early in the morning.
And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be early morning. Australia is going to kick off with LA, normal LA kickoff time. So that in theory, you still can spread it around. You could have your own primetime night if you wanted to. I mean, they'll build whatever you want in a monetary package. But CBS, there was some deal where CBS produced the games for Netflix in part because there's an out clause in the deal with the NFL, and if they changed umbrella coverage or ownership group rights or whatever, because they did some merger.
Yeah.
And that could have triggered a clause in that deal. And they were making sure the NFL is still happy with it. That was a part of the discussion too. So they've played ball with Netflix, knowing that the opt-out's coming up and knowing what Netflix is going to be doing. Chad, Rick Petino, you sent this to us today. Pissed off for greatness, is that a great way to describe his talk here?
Yeah, I haven't been compelled to watch much on the Vice network until I saw this clip of this Red Storm Rising.
What's that
show
next to on the channels?
That's a good question. I think that I get it on YouTube TV, but I'm not positive. And with YouTube TV, I can curate exactly how I want the channels to flow. So it's probably way down if I have it at all. But I may tune in to Red Storm Rising because it's got unfiltered Rick Petino that sounds something like this talking to his team.
Dig in and be a basketball player. Dig in. Every time you miss a shot, your game deflates. We don't care about your missed shots. Play defense. You guys keep blowing opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity. You're like children with bad things happening. Instead of digging in and be tougher, you wilt. Where is your toughness? Where have you guys been raised that you're so weak mentally that you just give up when something doesn't go right for you? Don't you know what adversity is all about? That's the game of life, not the game of basketball. You don't get down when things go wrong. You dig in and get tougher. Your whole life's going to be adversity. Learn how to deal with it.
Alpha.
Unbelievable.
And Chad, he said, where have you guys been raised? He's been raised by our generation. That's our problem in America. Is that Chad and I went to high school with these bums who have raised their kids to be betas. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And Rick Pitino standing up for
big part of the problem is us our generation.
Standing up for us here.
I do have hope for the future too, that there's still a coach that's allowed to talk like that to their team, that's not in trouble in any way right now for doing that. Like knowing that still exists in major sports.
He's not saying row your boat.
And people are like, and everyone who saw that clip, I saw our guy John Fanta posted, who's got a great relationship with Petino.
Great hair
I saw
color,
Clay
too.
Travis post it. All these different people on media, in media, and everyone that posted like, this is awesome. Everyone needs to give this a look. Everyone needs to give this a listen. Incredible stuff from Petino. He's spot on about learning how to deal with adversity and not tucking tail and running every single time. I loved it. I've always had a special place in my heart for Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
Who I've long, every time my Tennessee Vols job would come open. I'm like, maybe this is the time for Petino. Maybe, if there wasn't this scandal
Bring back
going
those
on
denim unis.
or this issue, like this is the time for Tennessee to hire Rick Petino. And I listened to that clip too, and I think there's a reason this guy in year 2 has St. John's as a 4 seed right now in the NCAA tournament. Hutton, they haven't been to the tournament since 2019. 6-year absence from the tournament, and in year 2, they are currently, I looked at bracketology right before the show, they're sitting on the 4 line.
And they're playing at the Garden quite a bit, right?
Yep, they played there the other day. And in fact, they put New York's college team on the baseline at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And he's definitely a New Yorker guy.
Did you see Richard Pitino's post about it?
No.
He said, PTSD from the time I didn't make my bed, and retweeted it, which is a great response.
That is good.
Yeah.
But we all know that Rick wasn't around when he was growing up.
He just didn't finish his plate at, what was the Italian restaurant?
Not because he didn't love Richard, but because, he was busy coaching his team and talking to them like this.
Yeah. Or
you're just like my kid when I see him once a week, when I finally make it out of the office.
Yeah, if he wasn't coaching, he
won't make his damn bed. And when he doesn't, I tell him he's a loser.
He was playing the alpha in other ways, too, if he wasn't coaching at the time.
Yes, Porcini. Who can forget?
I've
eaten dinner at Porcini. One of the best Italian meals I've ever had in my life. I'm not overselling it. If you ever go to Louisville, Kentucky, go to Porcini, the Italian restaurant. It is a magical place.
This is before or after all
I
this
can see how anybody could get swept away in that atmosphere.
Before
in that
or
place.
after this went down?
Well after.
So the pheromones were there.
I went because of the report. I mean, that was
the Petino pheromones were in the air.
Part of my Louisville tour was to hit
Secrets in the sauce.
Porcini.
At Porcini.